I think we should stop asking what Europe can do for Switzerland. What shall be the benefit and the cost for us? And instead, we should start considering seriously what Switzerland can do to help the construction of Europe. Indeed, if Europe fails, Switzerland will not be preserved from collateral damages. The European Union was formed after the Second World War to avoid further fights between France and Germany. While this aim has been reached, the logic of a rising federalization is clogged. The European Union does not enjoy the appropriate culture, which is now natural for Switzerland because it has been slowly constructed during 7 centuries. This experience, cannot be replaced by lawmaking improvisation. Hence, we should first convince the Swiss people that we cannot stay indefinitely in the present state of denial. And secondly, I'm going to show how we could support the construction of Europe. Presently, Switzerland, as a mechanical result of direct democracy, has chosen to behave in many respects as if it were an island located somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, a sort of virtual New Zealand. It's impossible to be a wealthy and stable country in the middle of a broke and divided continent. So, why should we enter into Europe? First argument, we deceive ourselves about the real independence of the country. The best example is the euro. Switzerland could not accept a fluctuating exchange rate of euro versus franc, and the only solution was linking the franc to the euro. Although we are outside the Union, we are more dependent than England or Sweden that are inside. Second argument, the economic interest of Switzerland points to the entrance into the European Union. I'll take just one example. Believe it or not, it is less expensive to extract marble from China and to transport it to Zurich than to dig it out of the Alps. Third argument, the future of Swiss economy lies with advanced products and services. We could and should become to Europe what California is to the United States, a vast laboratory for advanced technology. But if, and only if, we are in Europe. And finally, the concept of nationality is dwindling. Do you realize that in Switzerland, 1 baby out of 2 is born with a foreign passport, and a quarter of the inhabitants were born outside the country, a level which is reached only by Australia. We are at the top of immigration country. Now, how to help Europe? But first, give power to the people. The crisis of Europe is not only economic. Europe is lacking the very institutions which could manage the present emergency. It cannot survive as an elusive coalition of independent countries. It should become a federal state similar to Switzerland, which has been through the centuries the model of a united Europe. Let us mention 2 significant sentences in the front of our constitution. The people and the cantons form the Swiss Confederation. The Swiss Confederation shall protect the liberty and rights of the people. Hence, the people are initially on the same level as the cantons. What lacks in Europe is a democratic expression of the citizens, separated from the European government by too many levels of national political power and bureaucracy. People must vote directly on important issues. That is the first step. Europe is too complicated a mosaic of culture to accept bureaucratic decision-making in Brussels. this does not mean that the Swiss people always reach the best solution, or even a solution better than the one devised by the government or the parliament. The important point is that the people stand behind the decisions. A popular vote can be right or wrong, but the basic rule is simple. The people has the right to be wrong. Second argument. A true federal Europe must be built at the level of the regions. Switzerland is a mosaic of very disparate entities originating from the drive of local people. Europe could and should include, as such, provinces yearning from autonomy, like Scotland, Catalonia, or Flanders. Of course, some countries like the Netherlands or Denmark are small and coherent enough to enter as such in the federal state. But England, France, Spain, Germany, and Italy could and should dissolve into autonomous regions. The disintegration of the national entities gathered unwillingly by a long series of war could be a second step to a democratic Europe. Third step, a federal council, not a government. In all European countries, the government is based on 4 pillars: a head of the executive, the prime minister, a program for the legislature, a parliament majority to support the action of the government, and a solid team, compact, recruited by the prime minister. Although it seems sound, this organization will not work in Europe with 23 official languages. We have 4 only, plus 150 minority dialects, 5 different religious denominations, and a multitude of local traditions. The Swiss Federal Council is not really a government. No leader, no program, no majority, no team. Instead of a real legislative program, the method is to introduce some acts taking into account all the contradictory requests originating in a wide consultation of representative bodies. And in the end, the people can always reverse a decision taken by the government and the parliament. This system is complicated, slow, and ill-prepared to deal with hazardous crises, the relinquishment of the bank secrecy, the rescue of UBS are examples of the disasters inherent to the system of a federal council. But at large, it works, since it maintains the unity of the country despite its diversity. It prohibits a superposition of political feuds over cultural clashes. And it moves leisurely because any fast moving would be fatal to the country. And last feature, any constitution, however well carved, is not sufficient. It must be implemented with common sense, mutual respect, and the will to submit particular interest to common good, by accepting at a certain moment to stop the discussions for the sake of peace. This defines a culture, an unwritten law, more spiritual than juridical. The secret of living with a federal constitution belongs to Switzerland, which now must share its genetic capital with all countries of the continents. The mechanism of success is more straightforward than we suppose. Luxembourg, although very small in population, enjoys a particular status in Europe since its statesmen speak fluently German and French, and they are the only one. Switzerland, as a multitude of bilingual politicians, assured a wonderful career in a federal Europe for the benefit of the Union. Conclusion. Mario Vargas Llosa wrote recently that the people advocating a narrow cultural identity opposed to globalization exhibit a defensive attitude. We have no example of a civilization which remained unchanged throughout the centuries, except a few Indian tribes lost in the Amazon forest, enclosed in a magical culture and doomed to extinction. Strangely, Switzerland, like Latin America, is challenged by the same choice: how to preserve its identity and safeguard its independence by a calculated opening to the wide world in a positive attitude. Thank you.